Hello guys, I am Vaishali Kikan from Vaishali's e-learning and we are discussing physics. Now we are moving on to the next chapter, which is the energy, work, heat and power. We are going to talk about all of these terminology. We are going to have a detailed discussion about energy, work, heat as well as power. Then we are going to solve a lot of sample problems or numericals based upon these four concepts so as to make you understand these concepts in detail. So let's start our discussion with the first topic, which is energy. What is energy? Energy is the capacity to do a particular work. Energy is capacity to do work. Coming to the heat. Heat is actually the transfer of energy. Heat is transfer of energy from a warmer body to a colder one or a warmer region to a colder one. It's just the transfer of the energy. Now we are going to talk about the different forms of the energy. The first form of the energy is the thermal energy. The thermal energy is the energy where atoms or molecule of a substance possess the thermal energy, right? Because of the motion of the atoms or molecules also, we have some production in the thermal energy inside the substance, right? Thermal energy is the inherent property of the atoms or molecules. They possess thermal energy. Now there is more rapid movement of atoms and molecules, then we have the more thermal energy. If the atom or molecule are moving with a higher speed, there is a higher vibration rate as well. So then I can say we have a more thermal energy. Coming to the electrical energy. Electrical energy is the energy which is possessed by the charged particle. Whenever I have a charged particle, it is going to possess some energy which is known as the electrical energy. The charges can transfer the energy as they move through the electric circuit, right? So when the charges are moving inside the electrical circuit, they are transferring the energy. Some of the energy might be lost as a heat energy also when the charges are moving in an electrical circuit, right? So you must have observed that some of the wires become warm after the transfer of the current through them. So this is because the electrical energy is converting into heat energy. Coming to the radiant energy, it is the travel by the means of waves without requiring particles of matter. Whenever the particles of the matter are not required, only the waves are transmitting the energy, that is called as the radiant energy. Coming to the next type of energy, which is the nuclear potential energy. Nuclear potential energy is possessed by the nucleus of an atom. The nucleus of an atom will be having some stored energy into it, and this stored energy into the nucleus, it can be released by some nuclear reactions like the nuclear fusion and the nuclear fission. So these two reactions can release the energy which is called as the nuclear potential energy. Coming to the gravitational potential energy, we just talked about the gravitational potential energy in the last video of the series also. So gravitational potential energy is possessed by a raised object. When we make an object raised from some height, when the object is raised above some height, it will be possessing some gravitational potential energy. The stored energy due to the position above some reference point. Now you must know what is a reference point. The reference point is the point from where I have started the object to move up. So I have raised the object from some level, that level, initial level, that was the reference level. Now the kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is possessed by the moving object. Whenever any object is moving, it must possess the kinetic energy. It is the energy of the motion. It is represented as Ke in short abbreviation. Coming to the elastic potential energy. Whenever I stretch or compress some object, like if I am stretching or compressing springs, so when I am stretching or compressing springs, then also I will be having some stored energy into it. So when you are compressing the spring, when you have a spring, you compress it. So when the spring is compressed, it will be having a stored elastic potential energy. As soon as you release it, it will move and it will be converting this energy into the kinetic energy. Similarly, if you now stretch the spring. When you stretch the spring, again the spring will be having elastic potential energy, and as soon as you release it, it will again move, converting the elastic potential energy into the kinetic energy. So thus I can say whenever I have the object that are stretched or compressed, they will possess some energy which is called as the elastic potential energy. Now coming to the next energy, that is the sound energy. Sound energy is produced by the vibrations. Even when I am speaking with some vibrations which are occurring inside the sound box in my neck. So now over here we will be having vibration. If you touch your neck, you will observe some vibrations. So this is the vibration which is producing the sound energy. This sound energy is now traveling with the help of waves through a material to a receiver. My energy is now reached to my camera, to my mic also with the help of the wave. I am releasing the waves from my mouth, and these waves are reached to the mic with the help of the waves. Now coming to the chemical potential energy. Chemical potential energy is possessed by the atoms when they are forming a molecule. Atoms can form the molecules by the various combinations. So atoms can have different kinds of molecule involving various amount of energy, and this energy is called as the chemical potential energy. Now we have a chemical reaction where the new molecules are formed and the energy is released or absorbed. Whenever I have a chemical reaction, it is associated with some energy. Either we have the release of energy or we have the absorb of energy during the chemical reaction. So now coming to a term based upon it, which is the energy transformation. It is the change from one form of energy to the another form of energy. Like we are taking an example of the microwave oven, where I am supplying the electrical energy to the microwave oven. This energy will be converted to the radiant energy of the microwave oven, and this radiant energy will be converted to the thermal energy, which thermal energy is now heating up our food in the microwave. Right, so now coming to the next terminology. The next terminology is the work. Work is the energy transferred to an object by an applied force over a measured distance. Whenever I am supplying a force on an object, right? So when I have the force on an object and the object is moving, so it is moving in a measured distance, we have some energy transfer to this object. This energy transfer to an object, when force is applied to move this object, is the work done. Work done is directly proportional to the force that you are applying. It is also directly proportional to the displacement produced in the object. So if I combine these two, work done is directly proportional to F delta D, and if I remove this proportionality sign, I will be having a proportionality constant K. So work is Kf delta D. So now here I will take the proportionality constant value to be 1. So work is F delta D. The SI unit of the work done is joule, and it is a scalar quantity, right? Coming to the positive and the negative work. When the force applied and the displacement produced are in the same direction, so then we have a positive value of the work done. But if I talk about the negative work, when I have some force applied but the displacement is in the reverse direction, force is in the forward direction, displacement of the object is in reverse direction, so that time we will be having the negative work. So force and delta D are in opposite direction. Now we have the work done against gravity. Whenever I have an object, when the object is in the field of the earth, there will be some the gravitational force experienced by the object. Due to this gravitational force also, if the object is moving, there is some work done on the object. So this the work done against the gravity will involve a force which is the force due to the gravity. The magnitude of the gravitational force is m into acceleration due to gravity, and the acceleration due to gravity is in downward direction. So the force due to the gravitational field is in downward direction. So when I have zero work, either delta D is 0 or we will be having perpendicular displacement. If I am applying a force on an object and the object is not moving at all, so if I apply force on this board and this board is now not moving, so delta D is 0. Now I am not doing any work even though I am applying a force on this board. Now the second condition is that when we have the perpendicular displacement, when the force is applied in a perpendicular direction and the movement is in the 90-degree direction, so that time also we will be having the zero work done. Coming to the mechanical energy. Mechanical energy is composed of two types of energy, gravitational potential energy and the kinetic energy. Gravitational potential energy is the energy possessed by an object because of its position relative to a lower position, right? From a reference position, if the object is moved up, so because of its position, its height, the object will be possessing some energy which is called as the gravitational potential energy, and the point from where the object is moved, so the reference level is known as the level to which an object may fall, or from the level the object has been raised. So the kinetic energy is the energy possessed by an object due to its motion. Whenever there is an object in motion, it is possessing some energy. This energy is known as the kinetic energy, right? We have talked about it. Coming to the mechanical energy, it is the summation of gravitational potential energy and kinetic energy. So you can see the applications of the gravitational potential energy in the figure. You can see the part A. Here we have a pile driver which is using the gravitational potential energy concept, as well as we have a damping a river to produce hydroelectricity. The hydroelectricity is produced due to the damping, where we have the conversion of the gravitational potential energy to the electrical energy. You can see the figure. Now coming to the determination of the kinetic energy, how we can find out the formula for the kinetic energy. We know the work done is having the formula F into delta D, which can be represented as F is mass into acceleration, so mass, acceleration, delta D. Now we know the equations of the uniform motion. From the chapter 1 we talked about the equation. So V final square is equal to V initial square plus 2A delta D. This is the equation that we had talked about for the uniform motion, right? So now here if I find out A delta D will be equal to V final square minus V initial square upon 2. So work done will be equal to mass into A delta D, and we have found out the value of this A delta D. So let's put the value of A delta D over here. So work done will be M into A delta D, and A delta D is V final minus V initial square upon 2. So now work done will be M V final square minus V initial square upon 2. So now if I multiply M to V final square and V initial square, if I open this bracket, I will be having work done as MVF square upon 2 minus MVI square upon 2. So now if I consider the body starting from rest, so the initial velocity of the body will be 0 and the final velocity we are taking as V. So the kinetic energy is half mv square. Right, I hope you understood the formula and its derivation. Coming to the law of conservation of energy. When the energy changes from one form to another, there is no energy lost. So the total energy before the conversion will be equal to the total energy after the conversion. Energy will neither be created nor be destroyed. It can just change from one form to the another. This is the law of conservation of energy. Coming to the efficiency. Efficiency is actually the ratio of useful energy provided by a device to the energy that is required to operate the device. The energy we have supplied to the device so that it will work, and the energy it has given out, right? So in the case of microwave oven, we had given the electrical energy, the amount of energy that we have provided so that the microwave oven will operate, and the amount of thermal energy it has generated. The ratio of it, the amount of thermal energy generated divided by the electric energy provided, is the efficiency for this microwave oven. So ratio of useful energy provided by a device to the energy required to operate the device. Efficiency is useful energy output divided by the energy input into 100, which can be represented as E out upon E in into 100%. Coming to the heat transfer. Now we have three methods of the heat transfer, right? So now we know the first method is conduction. Conduction, in all of the method, first of all we have the transfer of the heat. So in the conduction, the transfer of the heat will be happening through material by the collision of atom. Whenever the atoms are colliding, there will be transfer of energy. This transfer of energy is called as conduction. Coming to the convection, here also we are transferring the heat energy, but by the circular path of fluid particles. When the fluid particles are in circular motion, because of the circular path of the fluid particles, we will be having some heat energy transfer. This heat energy transfer is known as convection. Coming to the radiation. Radiation is again the energy transfer by the means of electromagnetic waves. So if I have a hot body, it is radiating some waves, it is transferring the heat, right? So it is releasing the heat. So this type of heat transfer, when the EM waves are released, is the radiation. Coming to the specific heat capacity. Specific heat capacity is the measurement of the amount of energy which is needed to raise the temperature of 1 kg of a substance by 1 degree Celsius. If I have 1 kilogram substance, I want to raise its temperature by 1 degree Celsius. I am supplying some energy to it. The amount of energy that is required to raise 1 kg substance temperature to 1 degree Celsius is the specific heat capacity. So the specific heat capacity of water is 4.18 into 10 raised to power 3 joule per kg degree Celsius. And the quantity of heat lost by a body can be represented by a formula Q is equal to mc delta T. We will be practicing some question based upon these formulas later in this video. Coming to the principle of heat exchange. According to the principle of heat exchange, when heat is transferred from one body to another, amount of heat lost by the hot body will be equal to the amount of heat gained by the cold body. When the heat is transferring, one body will be losing the heat and another body will be gaining the heat, right? Always and always there will be two bodies. One is losing the heat, another is gaining the heat. The amount of heat lost by this body will be equal to amount of heat gained by this body, right? When this body is losing the heat and this body is gaining the heat. So now here Q lost plus Q gained will be equal to 0, and I can represent it as, we know the quantity of heat is represented as mc delta T. So m1c1 delta T1 plus m2c2 delta T2 is equal to 0. So this m1c1 delta T1 is the heat energy lost, m2c2 delta T2 is the heat energy gained. Now coming to the last concept of the day, that is power. Power is the rate of doing work, or it is the rate of transforming the energy. How I am representing the power? I am representing the power with respect to the work. So when I see how much work is changing with respect to time, I will get the power. Its SI unit is watt, which is represented as W. I hope you understood all of the things, and now we are moving to the practice questions for this chapter. An airport terminal employee is pushing a line of carts at a constant velocity within a horizontal force of magnitude 95 Newton. How much work is done in pushing the cart 16 meter in direction of applied force expressed in kilojoules? So we know the work done is force into the displacement. So now force is 95 Newton, displacement is 16 meter. So work done would be 95 into 16 directly. So it will come out to be equal to 1500 joules, or we have to represent in kilojoules. So I will be having 1.5 kilojoule, right? So I hope you understood it. Now coming to the second question. A toboggan carrying two children, total mass 85 kg, reaches its maximum speed at the bottom of a hill and then glides to a stop in 21 meter along a horizontal surface. The coefficient of kinetic friction between the toboggan and the snow surface is 0.11. Draw the free body diagram of the toboggan when it is moving on the horizontal surface. So when it is moving on the horizontal surface, first the gravitational force is occurring on it. So gravitational force would be in downward direction. Normal force would be normal to the surface, right? So perpendicular to the surface, and we will be having a kinetic friction. Because it was moving, we will be having kinetic friction opposite to the movement. So if the movement is in this direction, kinetic friction would be in this direction. So I hope you understood the free body diagram. Determine the magnitude of kinetic friction acting on toboggan. So to determine the kinetic friction, we should understand the mass. Mass is 85 kg. Acceleration due to gravity is 9.8, that we already know. Mu k is also given, which is 0.11. So Fk will be equal to mu k into Fn, and you can see from here Fn is equal to Fg. So what is the gravitational force? We know it is equal to mass into acceleration due to gravity. So now we will just put all the values. 0.11 into mass, which is 85, into acceleration due to gravity, which is 9.8. So now when you compute it, it will be coming out to be 92 Newton. So this is the kinetic friction, right? So now coming to the next part, calculate the work done by the kinetic friction. Now we know the displacement, which is 21 meter. So we have already find out the kinetic friction 92 Newton, and we know the displacement, which is 21 meter. So now it will come out to be equal to 1.9 into 10 raised to power 3 joules, or I can represent it as 1.9 kilojoule, right? So now moving on to the next question, it states a bag of groceries of mass 8.1 kg is raised vertically without acceleration from the floor to a countertop over a distance of 92 centimeter. Determine the force needed to raise the bag without acceleration. Right, so I need to find out the force over here. So now here, because it is not moving without acceleration, we will just be having the gravitational force acting on it. So force is equal to gravitational force, right? So it is equal to m into g. What is the mass of the object? It is 8.1 kg and the acceleration due to gravity is 9.8. So 8.1 is multiplied with 9.8 and we are going to get the 79 Newton. So this is my total force, right? The next part is the work done on the bag of groceries, again the force of gravity. Now we know the displacement, it is 92 centimeter. We can represent it as 0.92 meter, right? So now work done will be equal to force into displacement, right? So what is the force? We have calculated it is 79 Newton and displacement is 0.92. So when you multiply it, work done will be coming out to be equal to 73 joules. Now coming to the next question, in the sport of pole vaulting, the jumper's center of mass must clear the pole. Assuming a 59 kg jumper must raise the center of mass from 1.1 of the ground to 4.6 meter. So 1.1 meter to 4.6 meter is the total displacement, right? So it is moving in between this range of the ground. What is the jumper's gravitational potential energy at the top of the bar relative to where the jumper start the jump? So we need to find out the potential energy, and what is the formula of potential energy? It is mg into h. So we know what is the mass. It is given in the question, it is 59 kg, right? We know what is g. G is 9.8. Now what is the height? It is moving from 1.1 to 4.6. So what is the effective height? 4.6 minus 1.1, which is 3.5. So what is the energy? So it will be equal to mass, which is 59, into g, which is 9.8, into h, which is 3.5. So when you do the multiplication, you will get the answer as 2.0 into 10 raised to power 3 joules. So let's start with the question number 1. It states find the kinetic energy of 48 gram dart traveling at a speed of 3.4 meter per second. We know now the mass of the dart, which is 48 gram. We can convert it into the kg, so it would be 0.048 kg. Now we know the speed also, it is 3.4 meter per second, right? So now we need to find out the kinetic energy. We know the formula of kinetic energy here. Why we are finding out the kinetic energy? Because the dart is moving. The energy here would be kinetic energy. So Ek is mv square upon 2. Now we know mass 0.048. We know velocity, it is 3.4. So 0.048 into 3.4 square upon 2 is 0.28 joules. Now moving on to the next question. As the water in the river approaches a 5-meter vertical drop, its average speed is 5.1 meter per second. For each kg of water in the river, determine the following. So for 1 kg of water, we have to find out, so mass is 1 kg, right? The kinetic energy at the top of the waterfall. So first of all, we are going to find out the kinetic energy. So mass is 1 kg. The speed is given 5.1 meter per second. So kinetic energy has the formula mv square upon 2. We all know that. So 1 into 5.1 square upon 2 will be 13 joules. The next part is the gravitational potential energy at the top of the falls relative to the bottom. So for that we need to find out the height. So height is also given. So now mass is 1 kg, right? The acceleration due to the gravity is 9.8 Newton per kg and height is given, which is 5.7 meter. Now we have to find out the potential energy, which is m into g into h, right? So we will be putting the value of m, 1 kg into g, 9.8 Newton per kg, into h, which is 5.7 meters. So this is how we will be getting 56 joules. Now the third part is the total mechanical energy at the top of the falls, not considering the friction. So now we have to use the law of conservation of energy, according to which the energy can never be created, it can never be destroyed, it can just transform from one form to another. So kinetic energy can transform to potential energy, or potential energy can transform to kinetic energy. This is just an example, right? So gravitational potential energy changes to kinetic energy, and according to the law of conservation of energy, we will be having initial kinetic energy plus the kinetic energy gained due to the energy change, which is the potential energy. So we all have found out the kinetic energy initially, the potential energy. This potential energy is going to change into the kinetic energy. So this is how we can find out the total energy. the 13 joule plus 56 joules, right? This plus this is equal to 69 joule is my total energy. Now the third part is the speed at the bottom of the falls. So we need to find out what is the speed. So now here we know the total energy, which is 69 joule, right? So this is the total kinetic energy. All of the water is now falling, so we will be having total kinetic energy. Mass we have considered 1 kg. So now putting it into the formula, Ek is equal to mv square upon 2. So 69 is equal to 1 into v square upon 2. Now we will be equal to under root 2 into 69, which is 12 meter per second. So this is how we can find out the average speed when it hits the surface of the water. Now coming to the next question, a family uses several plants to slide a 350 kg piano onto the back of the pickup truck. You can see in the figure. So this is the piano in the green. Now this is the slide and this is the truck, right? So the box on the back of the truck is 81 centimeter above the ground. So this height is 81 centimeter and the plants are 3 meter long. So this is the plank which is a 3 meter long. And average force of magnitude 1500 Newton is required to slide the piano up the plank, right? So first of all, we have to determine the work done in loading the piano. So work done, we all know the formula. For the work done, it is force into displacement. That is the energy for the pushing of the piano in. E in is equal to work done is equal to force into displacement. Force I know, we have applied 1500 Newton, it is given in the question, and the length of the plank is given, which is 3 meter. So I am going to multiply both of them, and this is how we are going to get 4.5 into 10 raised to power 3 joules. Now coming to the next part, calculate the efficiency of plank as simple machine to load the piano. What is the efficiency? For efficiency, we have to find out what is the energy out, what is the energy in. We are going to divide them, right? So what is the energy out? For that, we are going to calculate the energy at this point, right? So at energy at this point will be equal to the energy which is the potential energy due to the height. So height is 0.81 meter in the centimeter. We can convert it to the meter. So it would be 0.81 meter. So now E out will be equal to m into g into h. So mass is 350, g is 9.8 and h is 0.81. So this is how we will be getting E out to be 2.8 into 10 raised to power 3 joule. E in is more than the E out, right? You can see. So we can divide both of them and we can get the efficiency, which is coming out to be 62%. Right, the last part is where does the rest of the energy go, because here we are using more energy to push the piano in, and when it reaches it will be gaining less energy. So where is the energy? It is going as sound or the thermal energy. 38% of energy is wasted as sound or the thermal energy. So thermal energy is created due to the friction on the plank, right? When we move piano, we will be having friction on the plank, and due to which we will be having the thermal energy. So starting with the first problem, how much heat is needed to raise the temperature of 2.2 kg of water from 20 degree to the boiling point, right? So initial temperature is given, final temperature is the boiling point, which means the 100 degrees Celsius. Mass is given, which is 2.2 kg. Now we know the specific heat capacity, which is 4.18 into 10 raised to power 3 joule per kg degree Celsius for water. So now we need to find out the heat, and the formula for that is mc into delta T, right? So what is the mass? Mass is 2.2 kg. It is multiplied with C, which is 4.18 into 10 raised to power 3 joule per kg degree Celsius, and it is multiplied with delta T, which is 80 degrees Celsius, right? So now when you do the computation, when you multiply all of them, you are going to get 7.4 into 10 raised to power 5 joules, right? Now coming to the next problem, it states a 200 gram piece of iron at 350 degrees Celsius is submerged in 300 gram of water at 10 degrees Celsius to be cooled quickly. Determine the final temperature of iron and water. Assume two significant digits, right? So now here the mass of iron is 200 gram, which is 0.2 kg. Mass of water is 300 gram, which is 0.3 kg. Specific heat capacity of the iron is 4.5 into 10 raised to power 2 joule per kg degree Celsius, and that of water is 4.18 into 10 raised to power 3 joule per kg degree Celsius. Now we will be seeing the delta T for iron. For delta T, we don't know the final temperature, so we will be keeping the final temperature as it is. What was the initial temperature? It was 350 degrees Celsius. So delta Ti is equal to Tf minus 350, and delta Tw is Tf minus 10. right? So now the total heat is 0 now, because both of them are going to cool quickly. So if I add heat of both of them, so it will be coming out to be 0. So MICI into delta Ti plus MWCW into delta TW is 0. So we are going to put the mass of iron, specific heat capacity of iron, and the delta T of iron, and similarly we are going to put it for water, and this is how we will be having the equation. So this is how, if I solve it with the help of the calculator, you can do the calculations, you are going to solve it. And now what is the variable over here? The variable is TF only here, and it is the TF only over here, right? So when you put the variable, so here we will be having 90 TF minus 3.15 into 10 raised to power 4 degrees Celsius, 1.25 into 10 raised to power 3 TF. So now this TF we can represent it as 0.9 into 10 raised to power 3. It is 0.09 into 10 raised to power 3 TF. So we can represent it like that, and we can add the TF over here. Now these are 2 in the power 4, so we can directly add them. So it will be 4.4 into 10 raised to power 4 degrees Celsius. So when I add this and this, I will be having 1.34 into 10 raised to power 3 TF. So TF will come out to be 33. You just need to divide, take this in the denominator of this, and you just need to divide it, and this is how you will get the final temperature. Now coming to the next question, it states, what is the power of a cyclist who transforms 2.7 into 10 raised to power joule of energy in 30 minutes. So energy is given, right? So and delta energy is the energy that is changing. So initially it was 2.7 and it is coming to rest. So delta E is 2.7 into 10 raised to power 4, delta T is 30 minutes. So in the 30 minute I will be having 1.8 into 10 raised to power 2 seconds, right? So you can multiply the minutes with the seconds, right? For each minute we will be having 60 seconds, and you can multiply it with that, and this is how you can convert the minute into second. Now power is energy per unit time. So now when you divide the energy, it is 2.7 into 10 raised to power 4 upon 1.8 into 10 raised to power 2. So it will come out to be 1.5 into 10 raised to power 2, and the unit of power is watt. Now coming to the next question, a 51 kg student climbs 3 meter up the ladder in 4.7 seconds. Calculate the student's gravitational potential energy at the top of the climb. So for the finding out gravitational potential energy, we need mass, g, acceleration due to gravity is 9.8, and we need height. So now height is given, which is 3 meter, right? So now mass is 51 kg. So we can put all of these things. So 51 into 9.8 into 3, and the units are kg into Newton per kg, and it is multiplied with meters. So this is how we are going to get 1.5 into 10 raised to power 3 joule, right? So this would be my potential energy. Now coming to the next part, which is the power for the climb. We know delta E. Now we know delta T, which is given in the question, 4.7 seconds. So power is delta E upon delta T, 1.5 into 10 raised to power 3 joule upon delta T is 4.7 seconds. So when you are going to divide it, you are going to get 3.2 into 10 raised to power 2 watt. I hope you understood all of the things for this particular video, and I hope you are going to download Vaishali's e-learning mobile app, and you are going to get connected with us on our different platforms like Instagram as well as LinkedIn. So if you have still not subscribed our YouTube channel, it is highly recommended, go and subscribe the YouTube channel so that you will get the instant notification about the next videos. Thank you so much.